Hey, how's it going? Welcome to the second episode in a series where I turn characters from Zelda Tears of the Kingdom into Norse mythology. Hi, my name is Hilary, and if you haven't watched the first episode where I Reimagined Link, go watch it if you're interested. Also, I wanted to thank you guys for all the positive feedback in the last episode. It really means a lot to me. Without further ado, let's get into the second episode. Disclaimer: I'm not a Norse mythology expert, so please be nice in case something does not fit or is incorrect. Also, warning, this episode contains huge spoilers for Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild.
This strange gloom keeps getting thicker. We've been descending for a while now. These tunnels are deeper than I thought. What could be down here?
For today's episode, we're redesigning Princess Zelda. I've created 3 different outfits for her, which I'll be explaining in this episode. First up is a royal dress, and yes, I know this dress doesn't appear in Tears of the Kingdom, but I'm absolutely in love with it. It's actually my favorite Zelda dress of all time, and it's also a key outfit to discuss how her character evolves. In Breath of the Wild, Zelda is a very insecure character until she finally manages to awaken her powers. She's always trying her best, but it's never enough to meet her father's expectations. However, once she awakens her powers and saves Link from a guardian, she begins to gain confidence in herself. That's why I believe she later cuts her hair, to symbolize a change in her character. She's no longer insecure, she's a different person now. Actually, there's a Norse mythology figure that resembles Zelda in that sense. Sif, Thor's wife, is also depicted as the perfect noblewoman, beautiful, golden-haired, and closely tied to fertility and prosperity. She represents an idealized version of womanhood in Norse society, much like Zelda in her royal dress, where she looks the part of a princess but feels trapped by her role. What's even more interesting is the symbolism of her hair. In the myths, Loki saves her golden hair as a prank, and she is deeply humiliated because her hair represents her status. Unlike Sif though, Zelda cuts her hair willingly and is happy of how it represents a new version of herself. In my design, I wanted to reflect in a visual way the weight that she carries as a Princess Zelda when able to awaken her powers. This dress has lots of details, with most of the accessories concentrated around the upper part of her body. There are 2 key reasons for this. First, to symbolize her status, wealth, and the role she is meant to play at the very top of Hyrule's social hierarchy. But at the same time, it represents how restricted she feels, trapped by the role she was born into. Even though she looks beautiful, wearing this ensemble must feel incredibly uncomfortable. The headpiece, the elaborate hairstyle with numerous golden accessories, the necklace, the golden details on the dress, and the fur coat all add to this sense of constraint. The fur coat in particular makes her figure appear more imposing as a princess, enhancing her silhouette by adding volume to the upper part of her body. I wanted her hair to be very abundant and thick so she could play with it and create different hairstyles. In fact, I tried a couple of alternatives for her final design before settling on this one. I was initially inspired to bring back brunette Zelda from Twilight Princess, but it didn't take long before I started missing her blonde hair. Still, I had to cheat a little bit and make her hair color look slightly more golden than in her original design. Sometimes it's just too yellow and it hurts my eyes, and it's also a good call to Sif. The necklace she wears features the symbols of the 3 golden goddesses who created Hylia, referencing the origins of Zelda's powers to ensure that history is never forgotten, and also reminding Zelda of her duty. I was really excited to design the pattern for the red fabric. Norse patterns are usually very detailed and fun, so I wanted to replicate that style while blending it with Zelda's history and culture. I experimented and came up with 4 different designs, but I absolutely fell in love with this one. I find it amusing to imagine the royal family carrying the symbol of a crying dragon for generations without even realizing its true origin, when, in reality, It was this very Princess Zelda who traveled to the past and sacrificed herself to become an immortal dragon. This reinforces the idea of history repeating on a cycle. Over here, you can see how I reinterpreted the royal family crest with a Viking aesthetic, and this one is a silent princess flower, which I think represents Zelda and maybe her ship with Link beautifully. Finally, even though it's not visible in this particular drawing, I want to highlight a design I created and embroidered in golden thread at the hem of her skirt. Once again, it features the symbol of the dragon, but this time it's intertwined with itself, representing the cycle that Zelda is trapped in. I also took inspiration from the Tears of the Kingdom logo, reimagining the Ouroboros in a way that ties into her story. This is her most recognizable look from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, or at least for me it is, and while Zelda's royal dress represents her status and struggles as a princess, her traveling attire reflects something just as important for her character, the pursuit of knowledge and her evolution beyond the expectations placed on her. In Breath of the Wild, Zelda desperately searches for a way to awaken her powers, but finds herself unable to meet the standards her role demands. Still, she puts a lot of effort into studying Sheikah technology, believing that if she cannot contribute with magic, she can do so through knowledge. This outfit symbolizes that side of her. It's practical, functional, and built for exploration. Unlike her royal gown, which is heavy with accessories and status, this design is much more grounded, allowing her to move freely and take action. This also ties into her growth as a character. At first, she's still carrying her insecurities. This is an outfit of a researcher who is searching for answers, not yet someone who has found them. But as she wears it throughout the game, she slowly gains confidence in her path. By the time we see her in Tears of the Kingdom, this outfit has become a defining part of her identity, not as a princess bound by duty, but as a scholar, a leader, and someone who is actively shaping her own fate. Another reference I found fitting in Norse mythology was Freya, the banner goddess of magic. She's deeply tied to wisdom, learning, and has a similar fate to Zelda in Breath of the Wild, where, as I said before, she dedicates herself to studying the ancient Sheikah technology. Freya is also known for her independence and resilience, qualities that define Zelda once she fully embraces her role. By the way, I would like to mention Thought Bubble's video The Psychology of Princess Zelda. It explains her character really well and it is honestly very interesting. In my design, even with short hair, Zelda can still play around with different hairstyles, incorporating lots of braids and dreadlocks. For some reason I can't quite explain, I've always imagined Zelda as someone who would take the time to style herself and look as beautiful as she can. She also paints a rune on her left cheek that represents the concept of seeking wisdom, which perfectly aligns with her intentions. Like Link, she wears plenty of fur accessories to protect herself from the cold. Her skirt is more flowy and features colorful and fun patterns that allow her to express herself more freely than when she wears the royal gown. At the same time, the entire outfit is covered in runes symbolizing her destiny as the wielder of the Triforce of Wisdom. Overall, I think this is a design she would enjoy wearing far more than the previous one. Zelda's journey in Tears of the Kingdom is one of sacrifice and transformation. It begins with her accidentally traveling to the past, bonding with Roru and Sonia, and growing to love them, only to realize the tragic fate that awaits them. Throughout her time in the past, she questions why she is there at all and what her true purpose is. When the Master Sword reaches her after Roru's sacrifice, she finally understands. The only way she can truly fulfill her role is by giving up her own identity, becoming an immortal dragon to ensure that Link receives the Master Sword. This was an incredibly emotional moment for most players. I remember seeing tons of TikTok videos about how this scene completely broke people. Honestly, come on Nintendo, placing Link in a field of silent princesses while learning this information was just cruel. I think this moment is key to Zelda's character, much like when she sacrificed herself in Breath of the Wild to hold back Ganon for 100 years while waiting for Link to wake up. That's why, even though I was happy that Roru and Sonia's spirits were able to restore her body, I found it a little bit disappointing that there were no physical consequences. It felt as if the sacrifice never happened. So, in my design, I wanted her to retain aspects of her dragon form, almost transforming into a Sonai herself and bringing their trait back into the present, reinforcing the idea of history repeating itself. Sorry, Link, but you'll have to love her even if she's a worm. For this look, I wanted it to contrast as much as possible with the royal dress. While that gown was heavy with accessories and restrictive, this one is meant to make her feel freer than ever. No burdens, no constraints, not even a hairstyle. She obtains this outfit in the past, where she learns more about her divine powers thanks to Sonia's guidance. This version of Zelda is more connected than ever to the earth, the sky, and her true essence as a reincarnation of Hylia, who also sacrificed her divinity to protect humanity, marking the completion of Zelda's emotional growth and evolution as a character, evolving from this to this. At the same time, while living in the past, she had to blend in so people wouldn't grow suspicious of her. To me, this simple outfit represents the most beautiful and primal version of herself. What do you think? In this episode, I focused a lot on Zelda's emotional growth to design her new outfits, but I also did my best to incorporate my knowledge of Norse mythology into her design. As the princess, Zelda feels like the character who represents Hyrule's history and culture the most, so it was a huge challenge to balance that while also blending in elements of Norse mythology. It was definitely a lot of pressure. I didn't get to say this in my last video, but I would like to consider this project where I turn Zelda into Norse mythology as my official entry into the Zelda fandom, or at least my official manifestation that I'm in it. I hope you guys can welcome me with open arms. If you'd like to support me, please consider liking the video, subscribing, and maybe following me on my other social media. I'd really appreciate it. I wish you a good day or night, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!